Introducing. Okay. Okay, so thank you everyone for joining. Hare Krishna. And yeah, I think let's just directly go to we'll start with the prayers and then we'll start the discussion. And let's just begin. This is, so right now we're just going to discuss how Parikshit Maharaj received the age of Kali, which is chapter 16. 1 minute, I need to hide my controls. Okay, this is good. Yeah. Okay, we'll just start with the prayers. Om Agyanatimirandasya Gyananjanashalakaya Chakshunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Namam Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prashtaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gaurvani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashita Deshtarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna. Okay, so let's just see what's the outline for today's chapter. Basically, we'll be just touching the previous chapter a little bit because we want to connect the dots, like what happened there, what's happening now. And then we have this chapter is just divided into 4 major segments we see, which is, first one is, they're just describing how Maharaj Parikshit was an ideal ruler and then he punishes Kali. And then the next one is Shaunaka Rishi's questions, which actually has which is very interesting. It's like my favorite part, because in that we'll see why the devotees are only interested in topics related to Krishna. Then it's Sutta Goswami. He describes the movements of Parikshit Maharaj as a conqueror. And finally, it's like the crux of the entire chapter on which the chapter is based, which is the conversation between Dharma, which is in form of a bull, and Earth, who's in form of a cow. So these things, it's good to remember that Dharma or bull, they are like one of the same things, and Earth was in form of a cow. So yeah, let's just begin. And so what was happening in the previous chapter? In the previous chapter, mostly we had this, we know Lord Krishna went back to Golok Dham, and what was happening because of that was Kali was already manifesting a little bit here and there, but when he went away, it was fully manifest, and which was visible in all these inauspicious signs. As we know, Maharaj Yudhishthira was asking all these questions to Arjuna, and he was even observing these things. This is happening, that is happening. People were not happy in general. So why was all that happening? It was because Kali Yuga, or the age of Kali, had begun. And also, Maharaj Yudhishthira was intelligent enough. He was like, now Krishna has gone, age of Kali has started. He just wanted to serve the Lord. So Maharaj Yudhishthira, along with all the Pandavas, and then followed by Subhadraji, Draupadi, they all went back to Godhead. And then finally, before leaving, he made Maharaj Parikshit as the king of Hastinapur, which is where we'll start from today. Now Parikshit is the king, and let's see what's happening there. So the first segment is that he's an ideal ruler, and then he punishes Kali. So we'll see why was he an ideal ruler. So first, let's just go to the text. So what is the flow like is, for every segment, we'll be discussing 1 or 2 verses in detail, with the text and everything, and some things from the purport, and then we'll be seeing what all we are learning, any practical applications, and so on. Okay, and then for this one, so this is what is said by Sutta Goswami. He's saying that Maharaj Parikshit then began his rule over the world as a great devotee of the Lord, and under the instructions of the Brahmanas. So these are the 2 things that are highlighted: as a devotee of the Lord and under the instructions of Brahmanas. And he also had all these qualities that were already foretold by all these astrologers. So what Prabhupada says here is that the actual qualification is being a devotee of the Lord. Definitely, no doubt, Maharaj Parikshit had all these amazing qualities besides being a devotee of the Lord. But what was the thing is that because he was a devotee first, and gradually he just became worthy of all those qualities and he developed them. And this is something I've observed in a lot of devotees, wherever I go, or even in Bhakti Center, you see these amazing matajis who are staying in the ashram there. They're so happy, full of joy. I'm like, why are they so happy? But then you realize that's because of their hardcore sadhana and the deep-rooted service and love for Krishna they have. Because of that, they keep developing these amazing qualities. And next, they're saying that he was a first-class devotee, which means he himself was a devotee, but he was making sure that others become devotees. And as a ruler, as a king, it was even more important for him to make sure that his people are devoted to Krishna. He made sure that there are arrangements for them to keep progressing in the devotional services. And the third thing, which is very important, is who were guiding him? He was guided by all these learned brahmanas. So like you can see, like we are learning about the ruler as well as his advisors in this entire section, that even the brahmanas, they were like very, very impartial. They were like samdarshi, they were equal to everyone, like how Lord Krishna has told in the Gita that you have to be equal to people. And also they didn't take salaries because they did not need that. They didn't sort of collect things and stuff like that. And the most important things, all the rules these all were following, it was already set forth by the sages like Manu, Parashara Rishi, and all of them. So it wasn't like, of course, you are like seeing in these days, every policy is changing, people have issues with, there's so much happening in the world with different laws that are coming up. That's because people are confused what law to set. But earlier, everything was already stated in like our scriptures, and it was just being followed very nicely by the ruler as well as the brahmanas or his advisors. So this is just something how he was as a ruler. And then we learn more about Maharaj Parikshit, like whom he got married to. He got married to the daughter of King Uttara. He had 4 sons, and in which Janmejaya was someone whom we heard about, because as we know, like Maharaj Parikshit was like a snake was a reason for his death and so on. So Janmejaya, he wanted to like just kill the entire race of serpents, but ultimately when demigods and sages explained him, he dropped the plan. So even this little thing teaches us that just because one person is wrong from an organization or anything, it doesn't mean that the entire organization is wrong or the entire group of people are wrong. So these are like just very little things that are just coming up in the chapters, which is not part of the main theme, but that I feel they're really helpful to just remember and inculcate in your lives. And then comes is that what Maharaj Parikshit was doing later on, like how he's ruling, he performed all these sacrifices to conquer the world. That's because for the welfare of people ultimately. But when did he perform the sacrifices? After having selected Kripacharya as his spiritual master for guidance. And then what happens is the last text of this verse, no, not this verse, this chapter, which is the text 4, which is where the actual, our main characters, they come and is. So when Maharaj Parikshit was on his way to conquer the world, he saw the master of Kali Yuga was disguised like a king and lower than a Shudra, and he was hurting the legs of a cow and a bull. King at once caught hold of him and punished him. So what's happening? Maharaj Parikshit saw this scene that there's this person who was the master of Kali Yuga. So there's this guy like a king who's dressed like a king, and he's hurting a cow and a bull. And in those days, it was intolerable. You cannot do that. That was like out of imagination. And that's why Maharaj Parikshit, he punished him. So what all Prabhupada is talking in the purports is that we are, since like last few verses, we are hearing that, oh, he was conquering the world, he performed sacrifice to conquer the world, but he was not doing it for himself or his own sense gratification or anything. He was doing it just to satisfy the will of Lord. Just like Maharaj Yudhishthir, we know like none of the Pandavas were genuinely interested in the kingdom or anything. They were just doing it for Krishna to be happy because Krishna wanted them to do so. So this is one thing. This is again like another quality of a ruler or a leader that we came across. And then it's that a king, forget a king, in those days, no one could tolerate insults to the most important animal, which is the cow, and the most important man, the Brahmana. So this is the reason why in the age of Kali, there's so much of mismanagement. This is the age of quarrel, because we can see all around us, cows are not respected, and the whole slaughterhouses and everything, that is just completely another dark side of our lives that we have to sort of witness every day around us. And also the Brahminical culture. By Brahminical culture, they mean, so the Brahmanas who were learned, they used to, they had all this knowledge of Vedas and how to just bring people closer to Krishna and how people can go back to Godhead. So, and the cow, we know cow provides us milk, and the bull is useful, when we're harvesting the land and everything. And these are like very basic necessities of life, like milk, food, grains, and also going back to Godhead. That's like the biggest thing. So that's why these two are the most important. But in the current age, they are not being taken care of because those in the power are hurting them. Why is that happening? Because the ones in power, they do not have the right knowledge. And before we go any further, although it's mentioned in the text 20 and we're still at text 4, but I wanted to put this forward before we go further, that whenever Prabhupada, he's talking about Brahmanas or the Varnashram system and everything, he says it's not like a birth thing or a community thing. It's just something that is based on a person's own qualification, their practices, their attachment, and how strong they are in their morals and so on. So Yeah, now that we have discussed. So that was about the Brahmanas, that how important they are because they bring you closer to Krishna. And the second thing is the importance of cow and bull. And in like a very recent lecture, when His Holiness Radha Maharaj was in India, it was around, I guess, Earth Day or Environment Day, but he gave a lecture on like Mother Earth. And he said the cow is declared as a mother because we all drink her milk, and she personifies the nature of a mother. She's so loving, like a mother. And how important the cow is for Krishna, we can't even begin telling. His place is called Golokadham, that literally means place of cows. Govardhan, his name is Govinda. And Lord Balram, he has this plow. Plow is used for plowing, but with whose help? You need the bull for plowing. So cows are like super important to Krishna. I mean, he's a cowherd boy, so you can't even think of anything else. That is it. Krishna and his cows, and he's the happiest if he's with his cows. And he doesn't like people hurting his cows. So yeah. And the cow is also, Maharaj mentioned, which was very beautiful. And there was something I'd never heard before, that cow is completely dependent on human compassion. If you see other animals like dogs and reptiles, snakes, blah, blah, all of them, they can still survive in forest here, there, anyways. But cows, they need our compassion. They need to be taken care of by us because we are ultimately like, we are using so many resources from the cows. So it's our duty. And if we are compassionate towards cows, Maharaj also mentioned that we will learn how to be compassionate to the entire humanity as such, because that compassion will sort of expand. And that way we can just develop the actual true compassion for the entire humanity, which is ultimately everyone is a child of Krishna. So it's very important to develop that compassion towards cow and similar compassion towards everyone around us, rather than, just living our lives and doing things for just our own benefits. So that was there. That was like what we discussed about that section. And now let's see what all did we learn in terms of practical application. Like we did learn a lot of things, but how can we apply them practically? So we mainly learned about qualities of like a king or a leader. And when we say about king, you don't have to necessarily think, oh, I'm not a leader anywhere, I'm not ruling any place. You can be like a leader in your house. You might be, I know people with kids and all, they are sort of leading their kids, and people in offices, someone, you might be having some interns working under you. So these qualities you can still incorporate within you, whether or not you're a leader or not. So first is leader and KC, Krishna consciousness, is that if the leader is Krishna conscious, then definitely his people will be, because he will make sure they are. So that's why in today's day and age, we as like book distributors, all of us must have done once or twice. So it's a duty to find out leaders and sort of give books to them. For example, like His Holiness Gopal Krishna Maharaj gave the biggest Bhagavad Gita to the PM of India. And I think these things really help, because at least there's awareness. And even if whether or not the leader is reading or not, but at least he'll get media coverage. And through that, we'll get media coverage and Krishna will get media coverage. So yeah, it's very important to somehow find ways to educate our leaders. And how the advice of kings should be there, that we learned. We won't be repeating that again, but spiritual master, even someone as amazing as Maharaj Parikshit, who had all these qualities, whom Krishna literally saved from his womb. Like he wasn't even born and Krishna gave him darshan. That is like the most amazing thing. But even he needs a spiritual master. So that is something we really need to like print in our minds, that we need spiritual masters and we need to obey them, because Maharaj Parikshit was obeying his spiritual masters. It's very important. And we learned that how he was a first-class devotee, Maharaj Parikshit. Why? Because he was giving Krishna to others. And definitely we all, like in our movement, we are learning how to give Krishna to others. And book distribution, Harinam, everything, preaching, all of them are great. But I was just sort of reflecting more on how can we give Krishna to others in a very simple way. And I just thinking, just by being a good example, like if people who knew me earlier, they meet me after 2 years or whatever, when I'm going back to India, if I'm meeting them or something, then if they notice a change in me and then they realize, oh, this positive change is because of getting connected to the devotees, then that is a good thing, because after that they will start appreciating the devotees. So I think it's very important, because now we are we are sort of representatives of Lord Chaitanya. And if whenever we deal with anyone, I remember long back, someone told me, like, whenever you're dealing with anyone, you should remember back in your mind that this is, you're representing Lord Chaitanya in one way or the other. So we should set good examples. Like no one should say that, oh no, she's a devotee, but like that, this and that. We have to be such good example that people should just get inspired to become like us, or just inculcate one or two qualities. As I said, like Matajis in Bhakti centers are so happy. So I was always inspired to become happy like them. But that the reason then I found it's Krishna consciousness. So similarly, people, if we set good examples and definitely make them aware of our practices in our little small ways, then hopefully they can also get attracted, if not directly get connected then and there, but at least they'll get attracted to the practices, and some other way they'll come to Krishna. Okay, and then importance of cow and Brahmana, we've already discussed. Protect Krishna's cow, how important Brahmanical culture is, but how to do that? For Brahmanical culture, definitely books and just preaching, letting people know about Krishna and how to protect the cows. There's several ways to protect the cows, and fortunately or unfortunately, it depends. Everyone has their own bandwidth. Some people can actually directly serve the cows. Some people can just do charity. Some can, I don't know, donate in some goshala that's being made, or some can just preach that don't hurt the cows. Or you can, imagine if you're just converting your friend a vegetarian or vegan, that protects so many cows. So those are like little ways in which you can protect cows. And now personal experience is slaughterhouses and milk. So still staying to the cow topic, when I moved to the US, I used to think that, I didn't drink milk for like few years because it's because this milk and the slaughter industry, everything is connected, and I didn't want to be a part of it or whatever. And I think it's great, the ones who can actually drink ahimsa milk and for whom it's provided and available, that is really amazing. But for us, it's not easily accessible. And then someone told me that it's okay, because at least if I'm using that milk, I'm offering it to Krishna, then that poor cow in some random farm or whatever place they are kept, who's going to offer her milk to Krishna? How will she get connected? So this is the simplest service we can give to cow. Is I know we offer everything as prasadam, especially when you're offering milk. Just pray for that cow, that Krishna protect her, somehow bring her closer to you. I think that is really important, because we can't do everything to by our own selves. So let's just pray. Okay, so yeah, that was the previous section, and just a little thing more on cow protection is that it's not just about the slaughterhouse, it's about making the cows happy, because just imagine how Krishna used to keep them happy. Have you seen those pictures? Yeah, these pictures, like they're so happy with Krishna, and he's just very kind to the cows. We have to be kind to the cows. If cows are happy, Krishna is happy, like really. So just some more pictures of our cute cows. Okay. Yeah, so that was that. And now the next section is Shraunaka Rishi's questions. Devotees are only interested in topics related to Krishna. So although the entire chapter is about Kali Yuga, but this particular section is little different, and it's very interesting. I found it really interesting because of that. So first thing is like he's inquiring that why did Maharaj Parikshit simply punish him? Because in those days, like even like striking the leg of a cow was a very big deal. You can't like simply punish someone and let him go. No, they were like supposed to be, I don't know, killed or something, or at the moment, or whatever the rules were, I'm not aware of. But like punishment, they thought it was very small because it was a big offense. And then he's saying, so please describe all these things only if they relate to the topic of Krishna, which is very important. This is telling us that they were simply interested in the topics of Krishna. That's it. They were not interested in hearing mundane topics like what's happening with someone who's, beating the cow and so on and all that jazz. No, they're only interested in topics of Krishna. And also, if you notice in Srimad Bhagavatam, there are so many topics. There's like science, planets, politics, economics, all that, but ultimately they are related to Krishna. For example, in the 5th canto, there are all these dvipas and stuff, but why are there so much of geography there? But why is that there? Because they want to tell that in all these geographical locations, Krishna was worshipped in some or the other form. Similarly, Mahabharata, we are like talking about Pandavas and the Kurus and everything, but why are we even talking about them? That is because they were ultimately related to Krishna. It's not about who won the war and what's happening, how did they won the game thing they were playing. No, it's about how Krishna helped the Pandavas, how they had this faith in Krishna. It's about that. So ultimately all these dry things, because they're connected to Krishna, they just became sweeter. And the next thing, what is mentioned in the verse is that the devotees of, it's continuation of that part in a way, that the devotees of Lord are accustomed to licking the honey. So basically this slide, just visualize it because it's very beautiful. I just found it like really nice for visualization. They're just accustomed to licking up the honey available from the lotus feet of the Lord, which is what is the use of topics which just simply waste one's life? Definitely. And then this part of the purport, it's so beautiful. They're saying that the spiritual planet, Golok Vrindavan, there it's in the shape of like a lotus flower. And even when the Lord comes here, his planet comes with him, that we know, in form of Vrindavan. And thus his feet always remain on that big wall of the lotus flower. And his feet, they are also like beautiful, like lotus flower. And that's why it said Krishna has lotus feet. So this is just lotus comparison, which is like very beautiful. But the point is that all that devotees love is Krishna, Krishna's pastime, his lotus feet, and that's all they're interested in. We'll be discussing this a little more in detail just in the next slide, but we'll just cover these things quickly. We won't be going into detail. Is that Yamraj and Hari Lamrita. So basically it was mentioned that even Yamraj was in the assembly of where the rishis were discussing everything, the Bhagavatam. And if you want to avoid death, basically the cycle of birth and death, then how is that avoided? By Harikatha or Bhagavatam, hearing the glories of the Lord. And then there are some things mentioned about how humans are lazy in the age of Kali and how they're wasting their time these days. And now there's a very sweet verse that Vaishaka Maharaj sings for all of us at the end of like every meeting we all have. So Rohini, would you like to sing it, please? Because I know you'll sing it very sweetly.
Hare Krishna. Yeah. Chaitanya Charitamrita Adi Leela 2.2. Krishna. Krishna Kirtana Gana Nartana Kala Ato Jani Pranjita Sanbhakta Valihamsa Chakramadhupa Shreni Viharaspalam Karnanandi Kaladhanir Vahatume Jiva Maru Prangane Sri Chaitanya Dayani Bhetavalasa Leela Sudha Sardhuni.
Thank you, Rohini Mataji, so much.
Thank
you. Yeah. So this was very beautiful, and thank you again. And so what this verse says is and also thanks to Rohini for finding this verse. I just knew the meaning. I didn't know where is the verse from. So she found it for me. So they're saying that, O merciful Lord Chaitanya, may the nectarian Ganges water of a transcendental activity flow on the surface of my desert-like tongue. Beautifying these waters are lotus flowers of singing, dancing, and loud chanting of Krishna's name, which are the pleasure abodes of unalloyed devotees. These devotees are compared to swans, ducks, and bees. The rivers flowing produces a melodious sound that gladdens the ears. So there are these beautiful comparisons made. First is the activities of Lord are like this nectarian Ganges, like just nice Ganga water flowing and just giving us so much of soothing energy. And all the singing, dancing, and chanting that all the devotees do, that's like beautiful lotus flowers. Can you imagine a river with lotus flowers? It gets more beautiful. So the singing, dancing, it makes the Lord's activities even more beautiful. And this Ganges, it's the abode or the home of these unalloyed devotees, which are in form of swans, ducks, and bees. So it's again like a very beautiful comparison and something very nice to visualize when we are thinking about Krishna and his devotees. Okay, so now what all we did, we completed the questions by Shaunaka Rishi, and what all did we learn? So the main part that we learned is that how to relate everything to Krishna. We need to look for Krishna everywhere. Like we learned one thing, that okay, they weren't happy with anything that was devoid of Krishna. To discuss that, but how can we sort of extrapolate it or expand it in our lives is that relate everything to Krishna, because mundane topic devoid of Krishna are just like a sad thing without nectar, and hearts of devotees are pleased by Krishna Katha. So basically Radheshyam Prabhu was telling when they're giving Krishna Katha, he makes sure like sometimes they need to give mundane examples, but always they relate it to Krishna, because that's what soothes the hearts of devotees. And also many other examples of how to look for Krishna everywhere or put Krishna everywhere is that books. You're distributing books, someone doesn't receive it, it's fine. At least they got to take darshan of the book. Give cookies as prasadam. And Vaishya Kamal even tells that many times he doesn't ask people to say Hare Krishna. Like he won't say, will you say Hare Krishna? He just tells them, okay, please say Hare Krishna. And even if they don't say, it's fine. At least they heard the holy name. And he also says that loud chanting, why loud? Definitely it's advised to chant so that they can hear our mantras, but it also helps everyone around you, like insects, microorganisms, plants. It does, because they are hearing the God's name. No one is going to go to them and give them God's name. So that's very important. And also how to look for Krishna everywhere. There was this example where Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Maharaj, there was this article written criticizing Krishna consciousness or something. But he asked his disciple that, okay, how many times Krishna is mentioned in there? He said 8 times. He said, that's amazing. Then why you're so sad? Like, even if they're criticizing, they're taking Krishna's name. So, I mean, that is amazing. It is just how we change our viewpoint and simply look for Krishna everywhere. And yeah, those are like some of the practical applications of basically not to be disappointed if you're not finding Krishna. You put Krishna in the equation, even if you think he's not there. And now personal experiences. So honestly, like all the personal experiences I'll share, they'll be like very, very mundane. So this is like about traveling. So I love traveling, but how to put Krishna in this part? It's just traveling to random places. But what I learned was when I was traveling with devotees, and although that was not even a devotional trip, but what they did before, like after reaching a place, they would do only 5 minutes, but kirtan. And then before leaving, they would do kirtan with a mridanga. Like we carried that mridanga all the way from SF to LA. So big deal. Imagine in front of the Hollywood sign, they're doing Hare Krishna. And that was like a very good sight. So they just taught me that even if you're traveling, wherever you're going, just take Krishna with you. And the best way to take him with you in form of his holy name. And how I applied, how we can apply is like, mostly, at least for me, like the rounds are left. So you don't have to deliberately do it, but even if you have that consciousness, okay, Krishna, I'm traveling, but I'll get to chant your name in this new city. So that way, at least that city will get some of your holy name vibration. And one more thing with travel, like integrate temple visits and so on. And the other thing, how you can look for Krishna everywhere, even for a random material things, keep thanking Krishna. You don't have to sit in front of him on the temple and thank him, just like a quick thank you, just feeling grateful that whatever you have, it's because of Krishna. If you have, I don't know, like some fancy clothes, that is because of Krishna. Very mundane example, but yeah, that is because of Krishna. So, and we were, I think with Chaitanya Prabhu, Mataji, Lekha Mataji, we were discussing this earlier, how to relate things to Krishna is like, you're buying groceries. I know, like for me, my consciousness is not that high that if I'm buying groceries, I'll think that it's for Krishna, but at least you can cultivate it slowly. Whatever you're doing, just try to say, I am doing it for Krishna. You're working, you are doing it for Krishna. And lots of, even something as random and mundane as dressing up. You can think, okay, I'm dressing up for Krishna. Although it's not that you're genuinely dressed. I might not be genuinely dressing up for Krishna, but at least if I have that consciousness, then somehow I'm thinking of Krishna once in a while. So that's one thing I learned. And how to put Krishna in your relationships with people who are not, who are not following Krishna consciousness as of now. So earlier I sort of didn't like to associate with them a lot because I felt there's no nectar and it was very dry. But then I realized that it's an opportunity for me to bring Krishna in the equation. Otherwise, who will bring Krishna to them? Because they are just having fun. Like you have family members and all who know nothing about Krishna, but definitely try to bring it. And I know we can't be very upfront. Okay, this is come with me to chant. That's not possible, but little bit. If you're having some plans, take them to a temple nearby for 5 minutes darshan. And I think, and ultimately, if nothing works, just pray that please, Krishna, bring yourself in the equation that I have with this other person. So that really helps. And yeah, that's how we can put Krishna in everything that's going on. And now we will discuss about the movements of Parikshit as a conqueror. What is happening? Harsh Parikshit gets to know that, okay, age of Kali is spreading, and he wasn't very happy with it. So he prepared to fight Kali. And hence he went out to do his thing. And main things, what Prabhupada is discussing in the purport is that there are 4 symptoms of Kali, which are, as you can read, it is directly it's inversely proportionate, I guess, to our four regs. So basically, if you follow the four regs, you'll be away from these four principles. And yeah, and then the next thing is the age of Kali means age of quarrel, which we know, and the above four symptoms are the root causes. That's why it is so important to follow the four regs. And but the next question you'll ask is that, age of Kali is predestined. Maharshi Parikshit knew that Kali is coming, it's already there, and why did he even bother to fight? I mean, who cares? It's there, you just sit, be helpless, whatever. But no, first thing, he was a king, it was his duty to save his people. And also, if it's raining, just like how we just discussed, or I don't know if we discussed, we will discuss later, like how Krishna is like the sun. He sends his rays, but it's on you whether you want to take it or not. You shut down your windows, there'll be no sunlight. Similarly, if there is rain, if you know how to protect yourself, there's no problem. Rain is predestined, but if you have your umbrella, you can protect yourself. So having this attitude that, oh, I'm already, I'm already born in the age of Kali, nothing can happen, that is not going to be very helpful. And then the rest few verses just discuss about his chariot, how he was, because, he was going around, he was moving around different places, different regions he was conquering. And in the Bhagavatam, they've also given the names of the regions and information about them that we are skipping right now. And the most important thing is that when he was traveling around, he used to hear about the glories of the Pandavas and the relation with Krishna, and also like the loving affection between the Vrishni and the Pritha descendants and everything. And whenever he used to hear the glories of Krishna, he used to feel the presence of Krishna with him. That teaches us that wherever the name or the glories or the Krishna Katha is there, Krishna is present there in that form. And yeah. And the next thing is that many times Krishna seemingly puts a devotee in danger. It might look, but a devotee is never in danger. But if that doesn't happen, then how will we learn about the glories of Krishna or the most? Like if the Kurukshetra war didn't happen, how would Bhagavad Gita would have happened? So that is one of the other things. So let's continue. Right. And you must have seen I have missed one verse that we'll come to very soon. But for now, let's just stick till verse 15. What all we learned in till now is that importance of four regs we already discussed. And the most important thing is that Maharaj Parikshit still fought. Once someone asked Prabhupada that, what if I say that as I just mentioned, that I'm already born in Kali Yuga, there's no hope for me. That's it. It's done. So Prabhupada said that if there's an acid rain, you will hold an umbrella. So it's very important to focus on that rather than just being like, okay, I'm happy, I'm in Kali Yuga, I can't do anything. You put me in the situation, Krishna, I'm not worshipping you, or I'm not making any efforts. That's wrong. And one of the practical applications is like we should focus on what we want rather than what we don't want. This is someone just shared with me. It's from this is something Sachinandan Maharaj, he talks about. It's just changing your mindset. I mean, it's important to be aware of the age of Kali and everything, but rather than all that negativity, focus on what you want. Once you're aware of Kali, that's it, that's done. But you don't have to keep feeling pity for yourself. Oh God, oh no, I'm born in Kali Yuga, or keep finding excuses. No, you focus on what do you want to do. Like rather than me thinking, oh, what all I lack in, let me focus on what you want to become. Rather than thinking that, I don't know, good example would be, okay, I'm not good in, let's say I'm not good in Java programming. Rather than thinking, oh, I don't know how to do this, or I don't know how to call the database and so on. I should focus on, okay, from where can I learn how to call the database? Or where can I learn how to build a so-and-so website? So just changing that mindset really helps. Even it's shown in some researches, if you tell kids, small kids, like don't play with the ball or don't eat chocolate, this no doesn't get registered in the mind. So tell them what to do rather. Don't teach them detachment, teach them correct attachment. So yeah. And this is one thing that we need to learn, that we need to fight. We can't sit on hand. And then next is like, how can we fight? Definitely holy name, chanting, whether it's your 16 rounds or whether it's congregational chanting or anything chanting. And we can see how the effects of fighting, like you see Bhakti Center, it's in the middle of all these pubs and bars and everything. But when something is happening, all the devotees are singing on that, like outside the door of Bhakti Center. It's amazing. And so many people around, they're hearing the holy name. Maybe they might be drinking something, but at least the holy name is going in their ears. So these are little ways we can be in the middle of Kali Yuga and just do Harinam and fight it. Like in Times Square, our amazing Kirtanya team, they do Harinam. So all these little things really help. And devotee association, I think we cannot, any it's as important as it gets. So it's the one of the most important things, because that is the source of everything. And finally, as I just mentioned, I guess we have to be compassionate to the people of Kali. Like, we can't always be like looking down upon people. Oh God, you drink, or oh God, you are a meat eater. Oh no, this is not right. No, you have to be compassionate. Either pray for them. Many times you see homeless people, just say a quick prayer for them, or help them, or somehow try to give Krishna to them. But just don't, I think we shouldn't just sit and judge them. We should do something for them. If possible, if nothing is possible, pray for them, because I think Gautama Prabhu says if a devotee prays for someone to become a devotee, then that person becomes a devotee. So that's something we can try. And also, so in recently, Ratna Maharaj also mentioned some things about obstacles, because Kali is like one of our biggest obstacles. So we should treat obstacles as our friends on the path of Krishna consciousness, and see the auspiciousness in suffering. And again, how to look for Krishna everywhere. He gave this example that once he was in Mumbai or Maharashtra, there the temperature was 108 Fahrenheit. It was very hot. But you can look at it that way. You can say it's 108, the auspicious chanting number and everything. So they still found Krishna in it somehow. So that's the crux of it. Even if it's Kali Yuga, whatever it is, just find Krishna in it. And the most amazing line he said is, when you have a good reason to give up, Krishna has a good reason to empower. So this is the greatest reason to give up. We are in Kali Yuga. Why do we care about, practicing anything? But this is your time. This is your opportunity to actually, if in this age you can, continue your devotional practices, then Krishna will be so, so happy, because with all the obstacles, you're still doing it. And a quick shout out to Lekha Mataji for actually that day summarizing it and sending me, so that I have it now. It's because of her. So yeah, another personal experience for what I will be discussing, the personal experience is that fighting Kali Yuga. Okay. Main thing I saw about fighting Kali Yuga is be busy with Krishna, so that you stay away from Kali. And honestly, with Krishna's mercy, because we already follow 4 regs, so there's nothing major that happens to us, or no major association issue or something. But a small example would be like very recently, there was this office event I had to go to, and I was thinking whether to go or not, because there's nothing in these events. It's just happy hours and so on. But I was like, okay, I'll at least get to talk to my colleagues. It will be fun. So that's where you have a sort of a choice between choosing a material thing and what to do. But because Krishna helps us to stay away from Kali, if we are open to his mercy. So what happened then, as Prabhuji was mentioning, we remembered there was something with Radha Vallabh Prabhu, and because of that, I didn't go to the office thing. So at that day itself, I was thinking like Krishna helped me to not get associated or not be in an environment where there were like so much drinks and so much of, like not very good things happening around me. So I genuinely feel that very little things keep happening. Sometimes you get a call from temple, so because of which you avoid a thing that is not very good to do, or which is very, very materially inclined. That way, I think Krishna really helps us if you just see his mercy in these little things. And also, okay, so this is not exactly we are fighting age of Kali, but because we discussed about laziness or whatever, and just we all have this, at least I have this inertia to start off anything, like to take, pick up Bhagavad Gita and start reading, or start putting that play button on a lecture and so on, or visiting the temple. So what happens, a few examples, I think what really helps to fight that initial inertia is that remembering how you felt the last time you did it, which is, and it's same as, I don't know, the people who talk about going to gyms and all, they say you should just remember how you felt the last time you worked out, then you will get the energy to just go enter the gym, and then it's all taken care of. Similarly, whenever I remember, oh, last time I went to temple, I felt amazing, then I just have to take the first step and go in the temple. Rest is taken care of, because I'm already in that environment, in that place with the devotees and with the deities. So you know that I'm in the right place. And always comparing it, no matter how much you go out, you have fun, this and that, but that feeling, and versus when you have had a nice day at the temple, made something, helped somewhere, or even if just sat in the temple, took like 5 minutes darshan, I think that's satisfaction. When you compare, then you would want to do the other thing more, like the spiritual part more. And another example I would like to give of sadhu sangha, because we had this little verse that people of Kali Yuga are lazy. So this time, although I was very excited earlier for the sadhu sangha, but because I had just traveled and I came back, I was like, no, I don't want to go. But because I was tired or something. And then I remembered it how I usually feel in kirtans. I was like, I want to feel that again. And I wanted to meet some devotees. I wanted to have that feeling again. I knew that once I just have to reach there, I just have to take that flight. After that, it's all taken care of. So ultimately, it's just about taking that first step, whether it's even for reading and listening. Just read one line, just let the lecture play in the background. You will automatically get engaged with it. So these are some things of how we can just fight either the symptoms of Kali or how we can just fight our basic laziness. And now the verse 16 that I had skipped initially. I'm sorry, I think we're running out of time, but is it okay, Prabhu? I think there's still a few slides going on.
Please keep going, Mataji. No problem. You still have a lot of time, actually.
Okay, that's good. Yeah. So verse 16.16. Let's just read the verse first. So Maharaj Parikshit, he heard that Lord Vishnu or Krishna, who's universally obeyed, he rendered all sort of services to Pandavas, whether it was a chariot driver, messenger, friend, night watchman, and obeying them like a servant and offering obeisances like a younger one in years. So let's stop here, because when I just read the verse, and we would think Krishna is amazing, which he is definitely. He offered all these services to them. He became anything, like he's the Lord of the universe, but he was offering these services. He was literally the chariot driver for Arjuna, which is really great. But why did he do that? And when you read the purport, then you understand that we know Krishna is great, but his devotees are even greater. Because for the Pandavas, they were such unalloyed devotees. They didn't, for everything they had Krishna. They was like, okay, Krishna, you are my spiritual master, you are my worshipable deity, guide, child, friend, this, that, everything. That's all. I mean, that's how the consciousness was, that okay, Krishna is everything. And that's why Krishna reciprocated in the similar manner. And like we all have heard, Chaitanya Chandra Prabhu says that he's not partial, he's reciprocal. So they had this consciousness that whatever is there, it's not that they enjoyed making Krishna their chariot driver, messenger, they took pride in it. No, but he was the only shelter. And they didn't want any other shelter. Arjuna had, what do we say, he had the option to choose Krishna's army over Krishna, but no, all he wanted was Krishna. That's why Krishna reciprocated by being everything to them, because he was already everything to them. Already they had believed that Krishna, you're my whole and soul protector. So Krishna took all these various forms to protect them. And also, the next thing we learn is when Maharaj Parikshit was listening to this, he was very happy. And we just read that the position of Pandavas, it's very high. So it might be difficult to attain, like being that unalloyed and everything. At least for me, it would be difficult to attain. So what we can do, Prabhupada has mentioned in his purports, that simply by appreciating the dealings of Krishna with his pure devotees, one can attain salvation. Like you have to appreciate the dealings of Krishna. Just cherish those pastimes, read about Pandavas, read about Maharaj Dhruva, just cherish like how he was helping his devotees and how much love the devotees had in the first place. And now, what are the realizations is that Krishna is all we have and nothing can change that. And we have this unique relation with Krishna. And honestly, from the lessons of Pandavas, we just need to realize that Krishna is holding you. And whatever happens, he is holding you. And that's it. But definitely because we are not like the Pandavas, Krishna is not going to come and hold you, but in form of his holy name and his devotee, you get all the shelter that you need. And he takes care. And whatever, like he's the only constant in your life, and you just need to keep him in the center, whatever happens. And he might not like solve the problems in the ways you like he didn't solve Arjuna's problem by saying, okay, Arjuna, don't fight, I would just kill all of them with my Sudarshan Chakra. No, Arjuna had to fight, he had to understand what's Bhagavad Gita, he had to understand everything. But Krishna solves the problems in unique ways, and because Krishna is unique, his ways are unique. So yeah, but the ultimate crux of this thing is that just hold on to Krishna and also appreciate the dealings of Krishna with his pure devotees. Okay, great. Now we come to the last part, that is the conversation between Dharma, who's in form of a bull, and Earth, who's in form of a cow. This is one of the main sections. This is what we are discussing about from the beginning. Now we'll first see text 17 is just to form the line, like some continuation. What was happening? We learned that Maharaj Parikshit, he was going through everywhere, all the regions, and listening about his forefathers. And then he comes at the scene, and this is what was happening. So the person, so what's dharma? Dharma means the religious principles. And he was wandering in form of a bull. And then he meets cow who's grieving like a mother has just lost her child, and she had tears in her eyes, and her body was like the beauty of her body and her luster, everything was lost. And then Dharma asks her questions, which we'll be just discussing shortly. So this section consists mainly of Dharma's questions and the Earth's answers. And but again, we are repeating the things that we learned initially, is that how important cow and bull is, or because we need fields, we need agriculture, we need milk, and human society, we need to maintain these two animals very, very carefully, because if they are happy, then the human society is happy. And again, we are also bringing back the topic of why they are not happy these days. It's because people have forgotten the Brahminical culture, which teaches us to take care of them. Okay, and then after this, we will come back to the question. We'll go to the questions that the conversation these guys are having. Questions by Dharma and then Mother Earth's answer. Let's see the questions by Dharma first. And these questions by Dharma actually represent the symptoms of Kali. Okay, so we won't be going to each symptom separately. With the questions, we are just inferring the symptoms and so on. So Dharma is asking, why are you lamenting for? Are you suffering from some internal disease, which is a symptom of Kali, that in Kali, people are full of anxieties and there's so many ailments and everything is happening with people. That's one of the questions. And is your friend in a distant land? And there's another symptom of Kali, that families are not blessed to live together. And who better than many of us? We all are like staying away from families and all that. So that's another symptom of Kali. And then he's asking, are you sad for me? Because I'm missing my 3 legs. So we saw in the beginning that Dharma was only on 1 leg, because Dharma has 4 legs, which is austerity, cleanliness, mercy, and truthfulness. And in Kali Yuga, only one of the leg is remaining, which is truthfulness, because in Kali Yuga, still people are truthful. And honestly, it's even required, because if we don't say the truth, then we can't do our everyday dealings or anything. So truthfulness is still there. And the next question is, are meat eaters exploiting you? Which is another symptom. There's slaughterhouses and meat eating. And then comes a very important part. He's asking, are you unhappy because the demigods are bereft of the sacrifice? Because in Kali Yuga, people no more do the sacrifices and yagnas so much. Because of that, what happens is that there's famine and drought. Why? That's because so these demigods are the providers of everything. And Krishna has put them into these duties and they have to provide everything. And it's not that demigods, they want those sacrifices and stuff, but through that, they just want to make sure that the fruitive workers or the ones who are not directly connected to Krishna, at least through these sacrifices and all, somehow they go on the right path. And so this all happens. But again, Prabhupada is mentioning that if you are a devotee, then you don't have to worry about these sins and virtue, because all we are focused on is Krishna, making him happy, because we are directly serving the root, who's Krishna. But how these two people at the end, Mahaprabhu is sort of bringing them together, because we as devotees, the only thing we have is we need to chant Sankirtan Yagna. And Mahaprabhu is also saying that even for this fruitative worker, the best type of yagna in this age of Kali, or the best type of sacrifice in this age of Kali, is chanting, or a Sankirtan Yagna. So whether or not you're a fruitative worker, you need to chant. And that's something. So this was another thing, like why is Dharti or Earth unhappy? Because people are no more doing sacrifices for the demigods, and that's resulting in famines and droughts. And then more questions. Are the women and children unhappy because these things are not taken care of because of so and so reasons? Then they're talking about the brahmanas, the administrators, mainly both of them, that many times these days the goddess of learning is handled by the brahmanas, and basically the people with knowledge, they are under influence of other people, and these administrative families, they don't have the right knowledge. The rulers, they don't have the exact guidance of how to be a Kshatriya, and all these random things happening. We won't be going into detail, but basically what it ultimately means that in the age of Kali, everywhere, whether it's politically, socially, or religiously, everything is just haywire. So Dharma is asking, are you unhappy because of this? And then the next things, people are just engaged in eating, sleeping, mating without any restriction. That's another symptom of Kali. Or these things are there. Or he's asking the main question. Are you unhappy, O Mother Earth? The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Hari, he had incarnated himself as Lord Krishna to unload a heavy burden. So we all remember that even when before Krishna was coming, that time also Mother Earth, she took form of a cow and went to Krishna. Okay, so that is how important cow is. She knew if she'll be in form of cow, Krishna will be compassionate. So coming back to this, all the activities here are transcendental and they cement the power of liberation. Basically, they're saying that Krishna came, he lifted the load of or the burden of earth, but now you're bereft of his presence. You're probably now thinking of those activities and feeling sorry in their absence. So mainly, those are the reasons why Dharti is unhappy. But the main reason she's unhappy is absence of Krishna. She's feeling his absence. She's feeling the absence of his activities. And one not unique, but interesting thing in this verse is they've written Nirvana Vilambitani, which means that Nirvana means liberation. So Krishna's activities, they minimize the value of liberation because the one who has attachment to Krishna's activity, his transcendental abode, they don't care about liberation or anything. They are just happy in being engaged in Krishna's blissful service. So this is the main question, that are you unhappy because Krishna is not here? And with the influence of time, when Krishna was there, so Dharti was adorned with all these amazing things, and which was, she had so much of fortune and nice growing crops and all, but with the influence of time, and since Krishna is not, that's taken away. Okay. And then, so these were his questions. He asked all the question at the end. He asked the main question, just like Maharaj Yudhishthira asked the main question at the end. And then Dharti Mata is saying, she's giving her answers, which are very similar to the questions. She's saying that, yeah, she's unhappy because Dharma lost the legs. And also this is just a little thing, how in Satyug Dharma had all the 4 legs, then one leg wasn't there, and then so on and so forth. This is just a representation, you can see. And also the fact that happiness in this world depends on these religious principles. That's why automatically the world was more unhappier, because there was lack of religious principle. And since the time Krishna has gone, this age of Kali has even spread more and more. And so she's unhappy for everyone. She's unhappy for herself, Dharma, all the demigods, sages, denizens, and all the men who were like obeying the Varnashram system in the human society. So she's just basically very sad for all that's happening in the world. And then she's saying that she was earlier decorated with Lord's footprint because Krishna was here. He was just roaming around and happily going here, there. And he has these footprints like the flag, thunderbolt, elephant driving rod, and lotus flower. So she had these imprints all over her. So that time she surpassed 3 worlds of fortune. Like she was so happy, imagine Krishna's imprints on someone. That is so beautiful. But then Krishna is gone. At least it looks like Krishna is gone, because I don't want to say Krishna is gone. So at the end, so when she was feeling so fortunate, that's when Lord left him. So she was very sad because of that, because God like relieved her and Dharma. So that's, she's saying about her reasons. And then she's still continuing that. But now comes very like another verse, and she's beautifully describing all the qualities of Krishna. We will be discussing some of the qualities. I won't be reading all of them now, but first she's telling that Krishna has all these qualities, and that same Krishna, he has now closed his transcendent pastimes on the face of earth, and in his absence, Kali has spread, and she's just sorry for his entire condition, because Krishna has gone and Kali has spread. So that's something which is not at all desirable. And now let's quickly talk something about the qualities of Krishna. First thing is, like, these are only some of the qualities of Krishna, because it's not possible to, it might be possible to count the atoms. You smash the earth, the powder, all the number of atoms that are in the earth, that's possible to count, but not the qualities of Krishna. And that Krishna himself has said in 10.51.37, when he was talking to King Muchukunda, King asked him to give his introduction, I guess. So he said, after many lifetimes, someone might count dust particles on the earth, but no one can ever count my qualities, activities, names, and birth. So, which is like really, really interesting. But that's why they are only some of the qualities. And let's see some of the qualities of Krishna. One of it is intolerance of others' unhappiness. We know Paritrana is sadhana and Nasha Dushkam. So this Jiva Goswami, he divided into 2, that is protection of surrendered souls and well wishes of the devotees. The next thing is equality. He's very equal to everyone. Again, coming back to the sun example and the fact that Krishna is reciprocal, he's not partial. That's because the sun is there. Krishna is like a sun. He's spreading his light equally everywhere to everyone. It's on us how much we want to take it. You close your windows, you won't get any light. So Krishna is there for everyone, but are you open to accepting him, or are you open to him? That's one thing. And then knowledge. Knowledge can be further classified into these 5 parts, but we'll just take up gratefulness. That Krishna, being the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he's still grateful to his devotees for their unalloyed services. Lord Rama thanks Hanuman, and Krishna thanks the gopis, that he says, I can never ever do anything for you. I'm so, so grateful to you all. And the Lord feels grateful to the devotees for their unalloyed and unconditional service. But the devotees, they do not want any gratitude or anything from Krishna, like all the unalloyed devotees. They are just happy serving them. That is the benefit. So this is very beautiful how they're just describing, like, both of them are so interdependent, Krishna and devotees, and just there's just love between both the parties, which is amazing. And then fullness of beauty, definitely, I mean, there's no doubt in that, no question. Even Radharani loves a beautiful Krishna, who even attracts Cupid. And he's also called Madan Mohana, which, and I'm very happy today, Rohini Mataji has the picture of our dearest Madan Mohana. So we all know how beautiful Krishna is. We can't even start describing that. But what all we learn from the qualities of Krishna is that we can appreciate these qualities. We have to appreciate these qualities, which are amazing. And appreciating them is like our ultimate goal. But we definitely cannot attain all these qualities in the status quo or anything. We can appreciate them, and we can learn from them. Of course, they're amazing qualities. We can learn so much from, how to be truthful, cleanliness, steadiness of mind, knowledge. But we won't have them in completion like Krishna, but we just need to appreciate them. And then the last verses is that this is also very interesting verse, because it never came into my mind that so Dharti Mata is saying that who can tolerate the pangs of separation from the personality of Godhead? That's fine. And she's saying when he was there, when she was immersed in his in the dust of his lotus feet, she was covered with grass. So greenery or grass is like, it means that the earth is happy, and it was like goosebumps. So the grass is compared to hair. So basically, she was so happy in ecstasy, like she was having goosebumps. That's one thing. And in the purport, it's such an so the interesting that I was talking about is that Krishna, at every point of his time, he was separated from someone, initially from his parents, like Devki Mata, and then from Yashoda Maya Vrajvasis, and when he was with Pandavas, from the Dwarkavasis, and so on. But only with earth, he was always there, always. So for her, it was like a big, big shock, Krishna going back. So that's why she was very unhappy, in shock. And this just reminds me of a little thing. I always used to think like Mother Rohini was very fortunate, because both the parents, both side of the parents, at some or the other time they were separated from Krishna, but Mother Rohini, she sort of stayed with him throughout. But then I realized that Dharti is even more fortunate, because even when Krishna was with the Pandavas, that time she could be with Krishna. And then is the last verse, just to have some connections with the next class that we'll be having, is that when this conversation was happening, and then Maharaj Parikshit reaches the shore of Saraswati River, which flow towards east. So that was what was happening. This was the final segment. Let's see what all we learned. What all we learned was, we learned about the symptoms of Kali. And what should we do with the learning of the symptoms of Kali is that we should recognize them. We should stay away from them. That is one thing. And qualities of the Lord, what to do after learning from the qualities, what to do with Lord's quality, appreciate him, just appreciate him, appreciate his dealing with his devotee. Just be happy for the fact that you worship Krishna. Honestly, I think that's one thing. We are just very blessed that we have Krishna. So I think that is one thing. And now the main thing is that Lord left the earth. So I don't know if you guys remember, I just said that I don't want to say Krishna left, because I said it just appears that he left. Why? Because Prabhupada says that, so if you ask that now Krishna has gone, so how to retain him? Prabhupada says that there's no question of retaining the Lord. He's omnipresent, he is present with us. And especially, he's always with us if we are attached to his devotional service by hearing, chanting, remembering. Basically, if we are serving the Lord in any way, he is with us. And mostly, he is with us in the form of his holy name. And definitely, because we're talking about Kali Yuga, so how can we not take this verse, which is Harir Naam, Har Naam eva kevalam, Kalo Nasteva 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 Gatiranyatha. So in this age of quarrel and hypocrisy, there is literally no other way. There is no other way. The only way is Harinam. And then Prabhupada mentions at the end of his purport that only by propagation of chanting we can be immune from the effects of Kali, because that's what we have to do. Because we mentioned, right, what are we going to do with the symptoms of Kali? We need to stay away from them. How to stay away from them? Propagation of chanting, that's it. Holy name. I think in this entire section I repeated a lot of things, which is chanting and chanting, because it's about Kali and that's all we can think of. So yeah, this was the one of the last parts, and just some personal experience was that. So here we are still discussing like how to keep Krishna with you, and because apparently Krishna left the earth, but how is he still here? Is by chanting. And I think definitely chanting is helpful, but with that, what works the best for me, or what makes me the happiest, or what makes me feel Krishna's presence the most, is his kirtan. I think because in kirtans, there are these amazing devotees singing, and honestly, I think when you are in the kirtan, and also everyone would have a different drug, I would say. Like I was discussing with one of the Matajis, she loves lectures. Of course, we all love every devotional service, but find your devotional drug. Okay, so that's one thing. So coming back to the post next, I think kirtan, when you say Krishna is with you, definitely he is, because whenever everyone is chanting around, you are in a very particular place where they're just singing and madly dancing for Krishna. I don't think so that any sane person can think of anything else, because it is, maybe I might not have that much devotion, but the ones who are singing, the kirtanyas, their devotion, it's spread in the environment or the surroundings. So that always helps me, whatever I'm doing. So ultimately, it's how Krishna, he sort of, at least I would like to believe that he stays with me in form of his holy name and kirtan, because once we are in a kirtan, we forget everything. We forget about office, this, that, work, blah, blah, everything. It's just Krishna and his name and his amazing devotees singing the kirtans. So yeah, this is one of the other ways we can fight Kali Yuga. And we are almost reaching the end, just these two. I really like this. I found it somewhere. I saw it somewhere that so His Grace Andrew mentions that Kali Yuga is very dark. So we have to become moons. And how can you become moon? So we know Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's face is compared to a face of moon. And what he tells us, just chant and make others chant, and without any discrimination. Don't think this person is this sad, he's the person of Kali Yuga, blah, blah, this and that. Just chant and make others chant. And then one more thing about Kali Yuga is its age of quarrel. So we have to just focus our mindset on a higher principle. Whether there is agreements, quarrel, anything, what's the higher principle is love of God, love of Krishna. And many of you might have heard Maharaj's parents' example, that what was the higher principle in their relationship? It was protecting their kids or love for their kids. Similarly, whatever is happening, we have to remember that we can avoid all quarrels, all miseries by focusing on the higher principle. That is keeping Krishna happy and serving his devotees and all that. So yeah. And then we are done. So thank you everyone. Hare Krishna. Sorry for any mistakes done. Hari Bol.
Hari Bol, Hari Bol. Thank you so much, Vrinda. This was amazing. So much nectar in 1 hour. So I just want to share a few points, few reflections that I took. So the first thing you focused on was the importance of cow and bull protection. And then you talked about the importance of cows, like even in Krishna's names, like Goloka, Govardhan, Govinda, everywhere the word cow is mentioned. And then compassion towards cows means compassion towards humanity. And you talked about the importance of spiritual master in our lives and obeying all our gurus and sadhus, which we saw even in the case of Janmajaya and others. Then the milk was an interesting thing that you shared. So even if the milk comes from cows, which is not ahimsa milk, still offering that milk protects that poor cow. And then this next section, you focused on looking for Krishna everywhere. And how do we look for Krishna? Like you gave the example of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, where he found an article which was actually blaspheming Krishna, but the article actually mentioned Krishna 8 times. And he said that that is the success of this article, because it mentions Krishna's names and many people will read Krishna's names. And then even while traveling, you can listen to kirtans, books, say Hare Krishna to everyone. At least they'll hear the names, even if they don't say the name. And then even while doing grocery shopping, we can think that we're shopping for Krishna. We should learn to dress up for Krishna and so on. And then some take-home points that I liked was like Maharaj Parikshit, even though he knew that he was in Kali Yuga, he still fought. We should never give up. We should keep fighting, even though we know that the circumstances around us are not very favorable. And then the next take-home point that you mentioned is focus on what you want rather than focus on what you don't want. So typically we get into the negative mental attitude of focusing on what we don't want. But what you said was a very positive angle where we should focus on what we want. And then how do we keep remembering and going back to doing devotional activities? We have to remember how we felt last time after performing a devotional activity. Actually, once I think Gauranga Prabhu mentioned that if you feel good after doing any particular activity, you must actually take it as a pearl and put it as a garland around our neck, each of these pearls. So we must actually remember these things. So whenever we are down, we must actually go back to that pearl necklace and remember all those wonderful moments where we felt blissful, where we felt ecstatic after doing a particular activity. And that will motivate us and help us going back to doing those activities again and again. The longer we stay away from that, the longer Maya will easily capture us and make us forget. Then one thing you mentioned is appreciate Krishna's dealings with his devotees. That was also a wonderful point. Just appreciating Krishna's dealings with his devotees makes us get all the mercy that that devotee got. Then the conversation between Dharma and earth was also amazing. In that one particular thing that you mentioned is that the qualities of Kali Yuga, full of anxieties, no families blessed to live together, no yagyas, full of quarrel and hypocrisy and so on. But the good thing about Kali Yuga for devotees is, even though it has all of these bad things, each of these bad things can help you think of Krishna more. We are in full of anxieties, but we can still think of Krishna during those anxieties. We have no family blessed to live together, but still we can choose our spiritual families to live together. No yagyas, you mentioned Sankirtan, right? Quarrel and hypocrisy. Actually, quarrels and hypocrisies show us the nature of this material world actually and help us get distaste. So for devotees, even though these bad qualities are there, Kali Yuga is actually the best time for devotees to easily chant and get out of this material world. Then you talked about the qualities of Krishna. One thing that I really liked was intolerance of another's unhappiness, the first one that you mentioned. And then you talked about other things like equality, knowledge, fullness of beauty, and so on. And then the last point that you mentioned, find your devotional drug. I think that was the key take-home point. So thank you so much, Vrinda, for taking the time for preparing such a wonderful class and discussion. And it must have taken a lot of time. So thank you so much. Hare Krishna. I just let anyone else, if anybody else has any comments, thoughts, speak.
Hare Krishna. Sorry, you will hear some other voices since I'm driving, but thank you, Vrinda Mataji, so much. This was amazing. As Gaurakumar Prabhu mentioned, you really put in so much effort in preparing with so many references. The best thing, so what my observation has been, especially with my lectures, is that I just speak about lofty stuff, lofty philosophy. But then what you did today was you spoke about these lofty principles, but then you immediately supplemented them with your personal experiences and the examples of senior devotees of Maharaj and so on, of Vaisheshika Prabhu, etc. So that actually kind of balanced everything out, and it kind of showed us how do we actually apply these principles in our lives, right? And so many points, so many nectarian points you mentioned. One I'd like to mention that you said that when we are really open to the mercy of Krishna, Krishna will actually enable us to, come closer to him and go away from Maya and things like that. You gave your personal examples about how you wanted to, how you didn't want to go to that work thing because it was all, there was nothing Krishna conscious there, and then Krishna gave you a service to kind of replace that. So that is something I really like, and it's we always say, right? If we take one step towards Krishna, Krishna will take 1,000 towards us. So this your point echoes this same principle that when we are open to him, he will actually reciprocate. And over amazing class, Mataji. Really kudos to you. Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Vinay Prabhu.
Yes, Haribol. Hare Krishna, Prabhus. Hare Krishna, Vrinda. So beautiful class, so many simple and beautiful points. I loved it so much, especially like this you discussed. I mean, there were all of the points were beautiful, but this about the cows, like go seva, and then you talk like share your insight about like consuming milk. I think this point is like many times devotees are in dilemma, like what should we do? Like, should we consume milk or not? But you put it so beautifully that like offering it to Krishna, like connects that cow with uh, devotional service and Krishna. So in a way, it's service to that cow. So really liked it, and then find your devotional drug, and then the beautiful quote of Indra Prabhu you shared. Really amazing class, like very sweet and to hear, and a lot of practical tips. I mean, I personally learned a lot. And thank you so much. Thank you so much for all your efforts and gathering so much of beautiful points and sharing with us. Thank you.
Sindhu Kanya Mataji, please go ahead. By the way, Vinay Prabhu, where are you? Which part of the world are you? India, US?
I'm back here, Prabhu.
Okay.
I on Sunday.
Okay.
Hare Krishna, Vrinda. It was so nice to hear from you today. This was, like everyone said, a very, very sweet lecture. I personally feel like I was able to learn a lot from every point that you said. And I think one of the things that really struck me the most about what you said was that whenever we feel helpless and we lose all hope in what's going to happen, then that's an opportunity for Krishna to show his magic in our lives. And that just reminded me of how every time I've been in a difficult situation and the unimaginable and the impossible has happened because of Krishna, how good it feels that you are under his shelter. So that just reminded me of that point. And I also wanted to thank Rohini to that she sang so beautifully that verse. That verse is so sweet to everyone here in ISV because Maharaj always sings it. And every time he starts singing it, the crowd goes wild. So thanks, Rohini. And thanks, Vrinda, for sharing your insights and your research and your bhakti with us. Haribol.
Haribol. So I just want to read. So Lekha Mataji had to leave early, so she sent me a message, which she asked me to read. So it says, Haribol Vrinda, very affluent and extremely practical lecture. Due to the early drop-off, I'm looking forward to hearing the rest of it. I really like your points on cow protection and how important it is. It really is sad to see the state of cows, especially once they are discarded and sent to the slaughterhouse. On the other hand, there is more awareness about health side effects of meat, climate impact, etc. I think there is hope. I also liked your tips on spreading Krishna consciousness in our own ways to other living creatures. As simple as that sounds, it's very potent. I recollect how Vaisheshika Maharaj was sharing about two strangers who were scared of repeating Harinam after him because they weren't sure what that was going to do to them. So she smiled after that. So thank you, Vrinda Mataji. This was amazing. And so Nupur also is saying on the chat, and just what a wonderful class. The practical applications you spoke about imprinted the learnings in my heart. Thank you so much for this beautiful lecture. And thank you, Nupur, for consistently attending all our sessions and showing your enthusiasm and bubbling with enthusiasm, actually. So thank you so much. So on that note, I think we can end now. I just have a couple of announcements. So as most of you know, Chaitanya Charan Prabhu is traveling in US right now. If anybody is interested in the lectures that he's giving, please reach out to me. He's been giving some amazing lectures, so I can share them with you if you are interested. That is one thing. And he'll be here in August. In about a month from now, Chaitanya Charan Prabhu will be here. Also, Gauranga Prabhu is in ISV right now, correct? Can somebody in ISV confirm?
Yes, Prabhu. Yes. I mean, he was here yesterday. I think he left for LA today morning.
Okay.
Yes.
So yeah, so Gaurang Prabhu is in ISV. Gaurang Prabhu is also coming here. Vraj Bihari Prabhu is also coming here. He's also a very senior disciple of His Holiness Radhanath Swami Maharaj. So he's also coming here at the end of August. So a lot of amazing souls, amazing advanced devotees are coming, visiting. So let's make good use of their association and try to serve them, hear them, and get blessed and showered with their association. So the next few speakers, as I mentioned before, are Shreya Mataji next week, Vishal Prabhu the week after, and we'll end this wonderful series of the first canto with a brahmachari from GEV, His Grace Sri Gaura Charan Prabhu. After that, we will start the Chaitanya Charitamrita. We will be doing a series of 24 lectures from different chapters of Chaitanya Charitamrita. And I will send you the format that it has to be in. And then we can go deep into CC and learn more about Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So on that note, so thank you so much, everyone. Hare Krishna. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Ananta Koti Vaishnavinda ki jai. Srila
Jai.
Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna.
Hari.